You've been running after life for so long that you forgot to stop and actually live it. You've given so much to others that now you don't even know what you need. But what if your biggest mistake has been ignoring yourself all along? While you search for answers out there, the real power, the one that truly transforms, has always been within you. Today is not just another day. Today is the day you choose yourself, focus on yourself, and work harder than anyone. Today I'm bringing you something powerful. A new way of seeing yourself, thinking about yourself, treating yourself. These 15 lessons from Stoicism aren't ancient theory. They're fuel for the soul, a compass in the chaos, an anchor for the days you feel lost. I'm not talking about changing the world. I'm talking about conquering yourself, about reclaiming focus, commitment, that quiet discipline that builds inner empires. And you know what? When you focus on yourself, everything else falls into place. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. Stay with me. This video might just help you find the direction you didn't even realize you'd lost. Before we dive into the lessons, I want to ask you something simple. When was the last time you gave yourself your own space? Not to get things done, not to respond, not to carry others, but to actually listen to yourself. Sometimes we go months running on autopilot, without even realizing we've put ourselves at the very bottom of the list. If this hits home, stay with me. And if you want to leave yourself a sign in this moment, write it in the comments. Today, I come back to myself. First lesson. Your attention is your territory. Imagine sitting down to work, and before you even touch a single key, you raise an invisible wall around you. No one gets in. Nothing distracts you. Just you and what you need to do. It sounds simple, but today it's one of the hardest things to achieve, because the whole world is designed to steal those precious seconds of focus. And if you don't protect your attention, someone else will use it. Marcus Aurelius spent countless nights in military camps, surrounded by soldiers, noise, and tension. He could have given in to the chaos. He could have let the disorder outside invade him. But he didn't. Every night, he would retreat into his mind. He wrote, he reflected, he protected his inner space like a temple, and he made something very clear in his meditations. If something external bothers you, it's not that thing itself. It's your judgment of it. Today, that translates into something even more direct, my friend. It's not the notifications that distract you. It's that you give them permission to come in. Your focus is a territory, and every day when you sit down to work, you have to conquer it again. It's not guaranteed. It doesn't just show up because you had it yesterday. It's an active choice. A wall you build every time you say, "Now, I'm focusing." And that wall is built with small, concrete actions, not vague intentions. Think about this. How many times have you opened your laptop with the best mindset, ready to move forward, and 5 minutes later, you're checking something completely unrelated? That's not weakness, it's lack of structure. Because if you don't give your brain clear direction, it'll choose the easiest path. And the easiest path always shows up disguised as productivity. But it's just distraction. Cal Newport, author of Deep Work, spent years studying people who achieve extraordinary results. And he found a pattern. They all protect their attention like it's gold. It's not that they're naturally more disciplined, it's that they understand something fundamental. In a world full of noise, the ability to focus is the most valuable skill. Whoever controls their attention controls their life. Whoever loses it ends up reacting to whatever others decide for them. So, what do? Something simple, yet almost no one does it. Set a deep work block with 0 interruptions, and treat it like a meeting with an emperor. You don't cancel it. You don't postpone it. You don't interrupt it. That block is sacred. Set the stage before you begin. Clean desk. One clearly defined task with an action verb. All materials ready. None of that, "I'm going to work on the project." That's vague. Say, "I'm going to write the first 3 sections of the report." That way your brain knows exactly what to do. Remove any reminders of parallel tasks. If a thought comes up, drop it into a holding drawer and move on. Don't chase it. Don't open a new tab. Don't drift. Write it down and return. That act of coming back without making it dramatic is pure gold, because distraction itself isn't the enemy. It's how you react to it that drags you down. Here's something neuroscience has confirmed over and over. Every time you switch tasks, your brain needs time to readjust. It's called context switching cost. It's not seconds, it's minutes. And if you're switching all the time, you never reach any depth. You stay on the surface, doing things but not really progressing. That's why you feel like you've been working all day, but at the end, you can't even explain what you actually did. You were busy, but not focused. And for those of you who use this video in the background while working, here's something key. Constant, predictable sound without abrupt changes and zero alternate screens. Your brain needs a stable rhythm to enter a flow state. If you change stimuli every 2 minutes, you'll never get deep. Use a physical start signal. Headphones on, phone out of the room. That tells your mind, now we're in serious mode. And when you're done, end with a closing signal too. A short summary line of what you completed and the next step ready. That helps your brain feel that nothing's left hanging, and it can rest without anxiety. Epictetus reminded us of something brutally simple. Control begins with what you choose to pay attention to. You can't focus and work harder than anyone if your attention is leased out to every little thing that pops up. Every time you give away your focus, you're giving away your power. Every time something external pulls you off track, you're handing over control of your day, and little by little that becomes your life. Turn your work session into a small act of self-mastery. One window open, one clear intention, a firm commitment to this moment. Not to what's coming next, not to what you left unfinished, just to what you're doing right now. And when you get distracted, because you will, come back without drama. Don't punish yourself, don't waste time regretting it. Just come back. Returning is part of the training. Psychologist Wendy Wood spent decades studying how habits work, and she discovered something powerful. Your brain doesn't distinguish between important and trivial distractions. If you let it jump from one thing to another, you train it to scatter. If you train it to come back to focus, you build concentration. It's not talent, it's repetition. Every time you return to the task without beating yourself up, you strengthen that muscle. Every time you stay in the distraction, you weaken it. That ability to return to focus again and again, that's what sets you apart from the ones who just talk about working hard. Because working hard isn't about sweating 8 hours straight. It's staying on task when everything is pulling you out. It's holding your attention when your brain wants to run. It's saying no to everything that doesn't move you forward. And doing it silently, without a show, without needing anyone to see it. Your attention is your territory. Protect it like it's the only thing you have, because in the end, it is. Everything you achieve depends on where you place your mind, and if you don't decide where that is, the world will decide for you. Remember this: my discipline is my strength. You don't need to say it, you just need to live it. So now, don't lose your focus. One window, one task, one protected block of time. That invisible wall you built at the start, it's still there. Hold it, because every time you do, you get stronger. Every time you protect your focus, you move one step closer to becoming that version of you who works harder than anyone. Not because they shout the loudest, but because they go the deepest. Second lesson: commitment. First, motivation later. Let me ask you something, my friend. Do you think a true Stoic waited to feel like it before getting started? Seneca didn't write only when he was in the mood. He wrote because it was his responsibility. Marcus Aurelius didn't only reflect on good days. He did it on the bad ones too, when he was exhausted, when war was relentless. The rule here is simple. Motivation comes and goes, but commitment is yours. If you want to focus on yourself and work harder than anyone, start by making what matters non-negotiable. Do it in silence. Let the results speak. We've all fallen into that trap. That moment when you say, "I'm not feeling it today, I'll leave it for tomorrow." Then tomorrow comes and it feels just as gray. And the next day too. In the end, it's not that you lack motivation, it's that you've trained your brain to wait for the perfect emotional state before taking action. But that state? It doesn't exist. There will never be a day when you wake up full of energy, with absolute clarity and a clear path ahead. That's a myth. What does exist is commitment. That decision you make once and then stick to without having to renegotiate it every day, like brushing your teeth. You don't ask yourself every night if you feel like it. You do it because you decided long ago. And it's the same with your work. If you need to convince yourself every morning to start, you've already lost. Motivation is a limited resource, but commitment is the structure that holds you up, even when you're running on empty. James Clear puts it plainly in Atomic Habits. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. If you're waiting for motivation to act, your system depends on something you can't control. But if you build a clear commitment, your system keeps going, even when you feel low. And that changes everything, because anyone can work on good days. But only those with a personal contract move forward on the bad ones. So define a daily micro-contract with yourself. Something specific and measurable. Something you can complete even if the day goes sideways. We're not talking about epic goals or heroic work days. We're talking about something so clear you can't lie to yourself. For example, finish a block of technical reading and 1 page of applied notes, or complete a deliverable with a clear quality standard. Something you can point to at the end of the day and say, I did that. Set a realistic minimum threshold and an aspirational standard. If the day goes fine, you hit the standard. If it's tough, you hit the minimum, and you don't break the chain. That's the key. Don't break the chain. Because the power doesn't lie in the good days. It lies in moving forward on the hard ones. That's where you're really built. When you don't feel like it. When everything hurts. When no one's watching. That's where you separate yourself from the rest. Create positive friction. Open the document you'll be using and write the first line the night before. That way you reduce cold starts. The brain hates starting from zero. But if there's something there, even a single sentence, the next step is easier. It's like leaving your sneakers next to your bed. You don't need to think, just act. And action creates momentum. Not the other way around. Haven't you noticed? Habits don't fail because of a lack of motivation. They fail because of too much friction. If doing the right thing feels hard and the easy thing is tempting, you lose. But if you lower the friction for the right thing, you win without heroic effort. That's why prepping the night before isn't a trick. It's behavioral design. You're building an environment where the right action becomes the natural one. Use a visible tracker of consistency. Not for social media, for yourself. A calendar with crosses and a quick note about what you added today. You don't need to post it. No one needs to see it. It's your contract with yourself. And every cross is proof that you showed up, that your word means something, that when you say you'll do something, you do it. Epictetus said it best. Without decoration. It's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them. So replace I don't feel like it with today I keep my word, even if it's just at the minimum level. That mental shift stops the excuse that hides behind emotional honesty. Because a lot of the time, what we call listening to ourselves is just looking for permission to give up. But real listening isn't that. Real listening is knowing when you need real rest and when you're just avoiding the discomfort of effort. And if you miss a day, come back to the pattern the next day. Without punishment, without overcompensating with empty promises. Pick the contract back up and keep going. No drama, no guilt, just return. Because consistency isn't about perfection, it's about return. It's the ability to get back up without losing your rhythm. This is where you truly separate yourself from the noise. Humble consistency, measurable progress, zero unnecessary epicness. You don't need to tell your story. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to show up for yourself day after day, in silence, with no audience. And when you do that, something shifts. Not all at once, but slowly. You begin to trust yourself. You start to believe that if you set your mind to something, you'll follow through. And that kind of confidence, no one else can give you that. You earn it in those moments when no one is watching. Don't forget, I do what I said I'd do. That's your new frequency. Not I want to, not I should, I do. Present tense, action, commitment. Because motivation is smoke, it comes and goes. But commitment is stone, built brick by brick, day by day, slow, steady, unstoppable. So now I'll ask you this. What's that minimum commitment you can keep today, no matter how sideways the day goes? Think about it. Something so small, there's no room for excuses. Write it in the comments, or if you prefer, simply leave this. Today, I keep my word. That gesture, however symbolic it may seem, is already an act of commitment. You're saying out loud that your word matters, and that, believe me, changes everything. Remember, don't wait until you feel ready. Start now, one step, just one, and let the momentum come after, because it always does, always. Lesson 3. Clarity isn't found, it's built. Picture this. You open your eyes in the morning without looking at your phone. Before the world comes in, you decide what kind of day you're going to live. You get up, drink some water, take a deep breath while looking out the window. And before checking anything, before notifications start screaming what's urgent, you ask yourself, what's the one thing that needs to move forward today? Not 10 things, just one. And your whole day revolves around that. That's clarity, not a perfect plan, not some grand inspiring vision, just knowing where you're aiming before the noise starts pulling you in 1,000 directions. Because when you have clarity, decisions become easy. Someone offers you something. You instantly know if it adds or takes away. Someone asks for your time. You know if you have it or not. Something tries to distract you. You return to your focus without guilt. Because you already know what matters. But if you don't have that clarity and the first thing you do is check your phone, you've already lost. Because now, you're not the one deciding. It's that first email, that first message, that first notification, and before you realize it, you're reacting, chasing what's urgent, putting out fires that weren't even yours. And by the end of the day, you wonder why you're so drained when you didn't even move forward on what really matters. This isn't some romantic exercise, it's mental survival. The same routine Marcus Aurelius practiced each morning. He'd start each day by reminding himself of something brutally honest. Today, I will meet difficult people, not to discourage himself, but to prepare his spirit, to not be surprised by chaos, to enter the day with clarity, not blind hope. And this is what most people miss. Clarity doesn't come in a flash of inspiration. It doesn't show up in a lightning bolt while you sip your coffee. You make it. You build it. You draw it with your own hands every single morning. And here's the problem. We live on autopilot. We wake up, check our phones, and fall into someone else's rhythm. By the time night comes, it feels like the day ran over us. Not because we didn't do anything, but because we didn't decide what to do. We were pushed, and that wears you out more than any physical effort. Because when you don't have clarity, every decision drains you. Every step feels heavy. Every task seems equally urgent. But when you do know where you're going, everything changes. As Seneca said, no wind is favorable to the one who doesn't know to which port they're sailing. It's not about big dreams. It's not about epic visions. It's about having a concrete direction from which you move every single day. Because when you're building your best self, when you're focusing on you, working with steady discipline, there's no rush, but there's no room for improvisation either. There's intention, there's direction, there's clarity, not found, but built. So what do? Something simple, yet most people don't do it. Sit down for 1 minute, just one, and write the sentence that defines your intention for the day. But don't write it like a task. Write it like an identity. Not, I'm going to do this or that. Instead say, Today I act as someone who, for example, today I act as someone who takes pride in the quality of their work. Or, today I act as someone who doesn't get pulled into what's urgent. Or, today I act as someone who keeps their word even when no one is watching. That changes your internal framework. You're not checking off a to-do list. You're stepping into a version of yourself. And when you embody something, behavior flows. You don't have to force it. You act from who you are, not from what you should do. And that difference changes everything, because should always feels heavy, but I am simply shows up. Positive visualization alone doesn't work. What does work is mental contrast. You see what you want, but also anticipate the obstacles. Marcus Aurelius did this every morning without calling it that. He didn't just imagine the ideal day, he prepared himself for the hard parts. And that gave him clarity, not blind optimism, operational clarity. Now, my friend, keep your long-term goals out of sight, but close in mind. A short list, clear, within reach. No more than 3 monthly goals and 1 weekly priority. That's your compass. Everything else, just noise. Because if you have 20 goals, you really have none. If you have 3, they all matter. And when they matter, you act differently. You don't scatter your energy, you concentrate it. You don't need a perfect plan, you need a clear one. You don't need to see the whole path, you need to see the next step. And when you take that step with clarity, the next one reveals itself. That's how it works. Not all at once, but step by step. With direction, with intention, with clarity, built fresh every morning. Most people search for clarity like it's something they'll stumble upon. Like one day it'll hit them and suddenly everything will make sense. But no, clarity is something you build every day, every decision. Every time you say yes to what matters and no to what distracts. Every time you take a minute before starting and decide who you're going to be today. That's construction. That's discipline, that's focus. You don't have to announce your direction, no one needs to know, you just have to live it. Because when you have clarity, the noise doesn't pull you off track. When you know where you're going, the storms don't knock you down. They may shake you, sure, but they won't throw you off course. Because your direction doesn't depend on the weather, it depends on you. So take 10 seconds now. Ask yourself, what version of me am I showing up as today? Then get back to your work. Because clarity isn't in this video. It's in what you decide to do after watching it. 4th lesson, choose your environment with surgical precision. Picture Epictetus teaching in his small space in Nicopolis. Not just anyone walked in. It wasn't an open auditorium, it was a filter. Not because he was elitist, but because he understood something we've mostly forgotten today. Your mind takes on the emotional climate of the place it lives in. If you surround yourself with chaos, you become chaos. If you surround yourself with distraction, you become distracted. If you're around people who talk but don't act, you'll end up doing the same. And this isn't just ancient philosophy, it's biology. The mirror neurons in your brain replicate what they see. When you're near someone, your nervous system syncs with theirs. That's why some people leave you drained, even if they didn't say or do anything wrong. And others fill you with energy without saying a word. It's not coincidence. It's emotional contagion. And if you don't control it, it controls you. And I'm sure you don't want people who just cheer you on. You want people who challenge you to be better. There's a massive difference between someone who says, "You got this," and someone who asks, "Did you do it yet?" The first one makes you feel good. The second one makes you move. And if you want to focus on yourself, stay disciplined, and work harder than anyone, you need to surround yourself with people who are already doing it, not those who only talk about doing it. Observe your environment like someone quietly examining a garden. Which conversations lift you up? Which ones drain you? What habits are you copying without even realizing it? Identity spreads faster than we think. If you spend time around people who procrastinate, you'll start procrastinating. If you're around complainers, you'll start complaining. If you hang out with people who get constantly distracted, you'll get distracted too. Not because you're weak, because you're human. Jim Rohn said it in a way that stings. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And as harsh as it sounds, it's real. Look closely at your inner circle. Do they pull you up or drag you down? Do they remind you who you want to be or make you forget it? This isn't about judging anyone. It's about being honest with yourself. Because your environment is not neutral. It either strengthens you or weakens you. Think about this. If you're trying to focus and push forward on your own project, you know what can help? Trade a daily chat for a deep weekly conversation with someone who respects your discipline. Stop spending time on empty conversations that add nothing. You don't need to be available 24/7 for everyone. You need to be present for the people who matter, and for yourself. If you're working silently while listening to this video, don't open social media, even for a quick scroll. That 1 second breaks the atmosphere. It breaks your flow. It breaks your concentration. And then it takes you 15 minutes to get back. Every time you give in to that just one look urge, you're training distraction. Every time you hold your ground, you're training focus. Every Sunday, clean your list of influences. 3 accounts that add something to your life, 3 that drain it. Keep only the ones that strengthen your character. This isn't cruelty, my friend. It's protection, because your mind is like a sponge. It soaks up whatever you place in front of it. If you feed it noise, drama, and mediocrity, that's what it'll absorb. But if you feed it focus, discipline, and clarity, that's what will grow. Hierocles, the Stoic philosopher, spoke of concentric circles. You in the center, then your close people, then your community, then the world. The key isn't to cut everyone out. It's to bring closer the ones who nourish your mind and character. To place in your closest circle the people who make you better, and to keep at a respectful distance those who drain you. This isn't about cutting everyone off. It's about learning to breathe in an environment that supports you, instead of one that suffocates you. It's about being intentional with your space, your time, your energy. Because if you don't decide who gets in, the world will decide for you. And the world will always pull you toward mediocrity. Because mediocrity asks nothing of you. Focus does. Every conversation you say yes to is a no to your time. Every person you let in takes up space someone else could have had. Every influence you allow is a seed you plant in your mind. And not every seed grows into something good. Some just grow into weeds. And if you don't pull them out in time, they choke everything you really wanted to grow. Learn to be intentional with what you allow in. You don't explain. You don't justify, you simply choose. Because your mind is your territory, and no one has the right to enter without your permission. No one has the right to plant ideas you didn't ask for. No one has the right to steal the focus that costs you so much to maintain. Look around. Who's close to you right now? Not physically, but mentally. The voices you hear, the ideas you consume, the people you think about. If something isn't adding to your life, you already know what to do. And if something is, bring it closer. Your environment isn't an accident, it's a choice. And when you choose wisely, everything gets easier. 5th lesson. Are you acting or just thinking about acting? Let me ask you something. How many times have you had a clear idea, a real spark of energy, but you pushed it aside for when there's time? That moment never comes, and while you wait, the idea cools down. The energy fades. What could have become action turns into quiet regret. Seneca spent whole days watching how people wasted their lives, not through major tragedies, but through tiny delays. He said the greatest energy leak happens before we even start, in that small space where we think too much and act too little. That's where projects die. That's where opportunities are lost. Not in failure, but in paralysis disguised as preparation. And you don't need to look far to find the opposite example. Think about Jerry Seinfeld when he started as a comedian. No one knew him. He had no contacts, no luck, nothing but a notebook and a decision. Write jokes every day. No exceptions. Every time he did, he marked an X on his calendar. His only goal was, don't break the chain. Not to write the greatest joke in the world, not to wait for divine inspiration, just to write something, anything. And once the chain got long, he didn't want to break it. Sustained action became identity. That's what most people miss. Hard work doesn't start once you're in flow. It starts in the first minute. When you move your hand, open the document, write the first line. Everything else is resistance pretending to be getting ready. Because when you say, "I'm not ready yet," what you're really saying is, "I'd rather avoid the discomfort of starting." And here's something you need to carve into your mind. Clarity comes after action, not before. You don't wait to feel ready to start. You start, and readiness follows. You don't wait to know exactly how. You start, and the path reveals itself. Action generates information. Waiting only generates doubt. And if you feed that doubt, it becomes a wall. Really think about this. How many times have you delayed something just because you weren't sure about the outcome? How many times have you postponed a decision, waiting for all the answers to appear? But answers don't come from waiting. They come from doing, from trying, from getting it wrong and adjusting. And every day without action makes resistance stronger. Because your brain reads delay as evidence that you can't. And if you repeat it enough times, you start believing it. Let me tell you something you might not know. Your brain has about 5 seconds to sabotage you. If you hesitate too long before acting, it will come up with every reason not to do it. It'll imagine disasters, create believable excuses, convince you that tomorrow is a better time. But if you move within those first 5 seconds, your brain doesn't get the chance to fight back. That's why counting down from 5 works. When you hit 1, you start. No negotiation, no overthinking. You just begin. And once you start, make the first 2 minutes perfect. That's all it takes to activate momentum. Your brain just needs to see that you're moving. Don't ask it to commit to the entire project. Just ask it to commit to 2 minutes. Once it sees it's not so bad, it keeps going. Because your brain doesn't resist the work itself. It resists the idea of work. But once you're in, it calms down. Attach a physical action to your starting moment. What could that be? Adjust your chair, plant both feet on the floor, set your jaw, then begin. That signal tells your body, we're serious now. It's not an empty ritual, it's a focus anchor. And it works because the brain learns by repetition. If you always start with that signal, your body will eventually act before your mind can object. It's like flipping a switch. You don't think, you just move. Epictetus spent hours teaching this to his students. He said, "No one becomes skilled without consistent practice." We want to be philosophers without effort, he said. We want to be good without repetition. We want results without the process. But it doesn't work that way. Mastery doesn't come from thinking. It comes from doing. The sooner you start, the faster you progress. Not because you have more talent, but because you accumulate more practice. Because skill is built in repetition, not in theory, not in intention, in action. And here's the modern trap. We think we need a perfect plan to begin, that we need total clarity, that we need to feel safe. But that's a lie. The only thing you need is the first step. And the first step is always imperfect, always uncomfortable. It will always ask you to move without guarantees. But it's the only step that matters, because without it, everything else is just fantasy. My friend, this is not the time to think more. It's the time to start faster, because every second you spend getting ready is a second you hand over to resistance, and resistance is the silent killer of progress. It won't take you down all at once. It paralyzes you slowly until one day you look back and realize you never even started, that you spent years thinking instead of doing. And that is the deepest kind of regret. Not failing, but never even trying. Seinfeld didn't become great in a day. He became great over thousands of days where he chose to act, even without motivation, where he chose to write, even without inspiration, where he marked that X on the calendar, even when no one was watching. And that is exactly what separates those who move forward from those who just think about moving forward. Not talent, not luck. The willingness to start without conditions. Stop asking your emotions for permission. Don't wait to feel motivated. Don't wait for perfect clarity. Don't wait until the conditions are just right. Start now. Bad, imperfect, uncomfortable. But start. Because imperfect action will always beat perfect imagination. Always. And when you become someone who acts without negotiating with their emotions, when you choose to focus and work with sustained discipline without waiting for the perfect moment, the first thing you eliminate is the space between idea and action. And right there, in that immediate movement, everything changes. Count from 5. Adjust your chair. Breathe and move. Not tomorrow, now. 6th lesson. Are you just doing the minimum, or are you raising your standard? Another uncomfortable question. Are you doing just enough to get by, or are you raising your level a little more each day? Because there's a massive difference between finishing and improving, between checking the box and growing, between doing something and doing it better each time. And that difference doesn't show today. It shows in 6 months, in a year. When you look back and realize you either evolved or you stayed stuck. Marcus Aurelius examined himself every single night, not to punish himself, not to feel bad about what he didn't do, but to realign, to check where he acted from his best self and where he let things slip, to ask whether that day brought him closer to or further from the person he wanted to become. And that practice, repeated night after night, is what made him one of the wisest men in history. Not because he was perfect, because he was intentional. If you're here, listening to this, it's because you want more than just to survive the day. You want to grow. And growth means one thing: getting better at what you already do. It's not about constantly adding new things. It's about doing the same things better, with more precision, with more care, with more awareness. Picture an old-world craftsman sanding wood. It's not that he makes a new table every time. It's that each grain gets smoother than the last, the finish cleaner, the detail more refined. Every pass of the brush is a conscious decision not to settle, to go 1 millimeter further. In the end, the difference between an ordinary piece of furniture and a masterpiece isn't in the material, it's in the attention to detail. In those extra hours spent polishing when no one's watching. That's the difference between someone who shows up and someone who transforms. The first repeats, the second refines, the first does enough, the second does what it takes to get better. And that mindset, repeated day after day, builds something no one can take from you: silent mastery. But of course, we live in a culture that glorifies speed. We want it fast, we want it done, we want to move on. But quality doesn't live in speed, it lives in attention. And attention takes time, it takes pause. It takes asking yourself after each task, what detail can I improve next time? Just one. You don't need to change everything. Just pick one thing and raise it. Cal Newport spent years studying people at the top of their fields: musicians, writers, scientists, athletes. And he found a common pattern. They all practiced what he calls deliberate practice. They didn't just repeat, they repeated with the intent to improve. They didn't just work hard, they worked with focus, aiming to raise their standard every time. They identified their weak point and attacked it. Because working hard without improving is just wear and tear. Working hard to grow, that's evolution. So if you're working on something right now, then when you finish a task today, stop for a moment. Don't immediately jump to the next thing. Ask yourself, what detail could I do better next time? It could be the clarity of a paragraph, the accuracy of a calculation, the way you explain an idea, the structure of your argument. Just one thing. Don't try to fix it all. Just notice it. And the next time you do that task, improve that detail. Not everything at once, just that one thing. Because real improvement doesn't come in big leaps. It comes in small, consistent adjustments. Every once in a while, stay 5 minutes longer after you feel like stopping. That small extra stretch, that's what shapes character. Because that's where the real growth happens. Not when you're full of energy, when you have nothing left and still go on. When your body says stop and you say 5 more minutes. That's where discipline becomes identity. That's when you stop being someone who works hard sometimes and become someone who just works hard. No conditions, no internal negotiation. And here's something almost no one does, but it makes a huge difference. Talk less about your goals. Reinforce silent work. Let the quality speak for itself. Because when you talk too much about what you're going to do, your brain gets the reward before you act. Dopamine fires from the conversation, and the urgency fades. The hunger fades. But when you work in silence, when you improve without making noise, the reward comes from within. And that's the only one that matters, the only one that lasts. Because when you share your goals too soon, your brain confuses them with accomplishments. It feels like you already did the work. That's why the people who talk the most about their projects are often the ones who never finish them. And the people who move in silence, one day they show up with results no one expected. Not because they wanted validation, but because they were chasing excellence. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that sums it all up. The quality of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. And he repeated it because he knew improving your external work starts by raising your internal standard. If you tolerate mediocrity on the inside, you'll produce it on the outside. But if you raise your bar on the inside, you'll have to follow it on the outside. Because your external results are always a reflection of your inner standard. This isn't about being a perfectionist. It's about being intentional. It's not about never making mistakes. It's about learning from them and not repeating them. It's not about doing everything right the first time. It's about doing it a little better every time. 1 gram more attention, 1 detail more refined, 1 decision more conscious. That's elevation, that's growth, that's becoming your best version. Because in the end, my friend, no one's going to raise your standard for you. No one's going to expect more from you than you expect. No one's going to notice those small details you improve in silence, but you will. And that's enough. Because when you know you did better today than you did yesterday, even if it's just a little, you sleep differently. You walk differently. You look at yourself differently. Because you're not competing with anyone else. You're competing with who you were yesterday. And that's the only competition that matters. Ask yourself tonight, did I do the minimum or did I raise something? And if the answer is the minimum, change that tomorrow. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be intentional. Just 1 step beyond where you stopped yesterday. Because excellence isn't an act, it's a habit. And habits are built by refining, sharpening, raising. 1 day at a time, 1 task at a time, 1 detail at a time. No rush, but no pause. No noise, but full direction. That's how you build something that lasts. 7th lesson. Is your mind here? Or has it already drifted off? Right now, wherever you are, your body is present. But is your mind present too? That's the question that changes everything. It's not about how many hours you work, how much time you spend with your family, or how many tasks you check off. What truly matters is how much of you is actually present while doing any of it. Because you can spend an entire day with someone and still miss everything they say. Not because you're incapable, but because your mind was never there in the first place. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every morning that life is happening now, not in the future, not in the past. He wrote it in his journal, not to impress anyone, but to stay grounded. They weren't beautiful quotes for others. They were practical reminders to not get lost in his own mind. Even as an emperor with the power to shape the world, he understood that the only thing he truly controlled was his attention. And returning, over and over again, to what was right in front of him is what kept him sane in the midst of chaos. This isn't about mystical concentration. It's not about meditating for hours or reaching a Zen-like state. It's about something much more simple and much harder: being in what you're doing. When you're writing, write. When you're reading, read. When you're thinking, think. Without splitting your attention in 10 different directions. Because when your mind is scattered, your work is diluted. And when your work is diluted, your life is diluted. The problem is that our mind now behaves like a dog without a leash. It runs constantly, to the notification you haven't checked, to the comment that hurt, to the unresolved conversation, to the fear sitting quietly in the background. And every time it escapes, you follow. You don't notice. You don't choose. You just disconnect from the moment and drift somewhere else. When you finally return, 10 minutes have gone by, and you're not even sure how. The difference between someone who grows and someone who burns out isn't in how much they do. It's in how present they are while doing it. You can work twice as long as someone else and still achieve less. Not because they're smarter, but because they're here. Their mind and body are in the same place. And that alignment, that level of presence, multiplies the impact of every single minute. Imagine you're reading something important. You've been on the same page for 10 minutes. Suddenly you realize your eyes were scanning the words, but your mind was somewhere else. Thinking about an email you have to send, an awkward conversation you're avoiding, a decision you keep delaying. That moment right there is the key. Don't resist it. Don't beat yourself up, just notice it. Watch how your mind tries to run. Notice how the urge to escape appears by itself. Then come back. No force, just awareness, just the decision to return. That act of returning, again and again, is the central muscle of discipline. It's not about brute force, it's not about repression. It's about conscious return. So, how do you come back? Because let's be honest, you will drift off. That's guaranteed. The mind isn't naturally still. The goal isn't to never get distracted. The goal is to return quickly and return without drama. Don't waste 5 more minutes regretting that you lost focus. Just notice it and come back. That's it. That's simple. That difficult. Try this. Every 15 minutes, ask yourself silently, "Am I here?" You don't have to stop what you're doing. Just ask. And if the answer is no, if you notice your mind has gone somewhere else, come back. No guilt, no judgment, just return. That micro check-in is one of the most powerful habits you can build. Because discipline is not about doing things perfectly. It's about returning to the path every time you stray. If your mind feels scattered, your body tense, everything heavy, use your breath to bring back your focus. Inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 6. Twice. That's all. It's not magic. It's physiology. When you exhale more slowly than you inhale, you activate your parasympathetic nervous system. You signal to your body that it's safe to relax. When the body relaxes, the mind follows. And when the mind calms, focus returns. You can also use a physical anchor. Put both feet on the floor, drop your shoulders. Feel your weight in the chair. The body brings the mind back because the body always lives in the present. It's the mind that travels. So when you connect to the body, you reconnect to the now. And the present moment is the only place where you can work, the only place where you can create, the only place where you can concentrate and move forward. 8th lesson, the story of the cup and the mind that overflows. You've probably experienced it. You meet up with a friend at a cafe to get some work done. Both of you with your laptops open, a coffee in hand, ready to make progress. But when you glance at their screen, they've got 10 tabs open. News, social media, chat, music, documents, some online shopping. They say they're exhausted, that they can't focus, that they need a break. But the truth is, they're not tired. They're full. Their mind has no room for anything else. It's not a lack of energy. It's a lack of space. It's like trying to pour more water into a cup that's already overflowing. No matter how much you add, it won't hold anymore. And in forcing it, all you do is spill what's already there. That's exactly how your mind functions when it's overloaded. It can't absorb anything new. It can't process new ideas. It can't focus, not because it lacks willpower, but because it's already occupied with everything at once. Seneca put it simply, a mind full of worry has no space for wisdom. That's not poetry. It's internal architecture. If there's no space, nothing new can enter. If your mind is crowded with noise, anxiety, unfinished tasks, unresolved conversations, and delayed decisions, there's no room left for focus, no room for creativity, no room for deep work. And here's the real problem. We live in accumulation mode. We accumulate tabs. We accumulate notifications. We accumulate half-finished conversations. We accumulate ideas we never act on. We accumulate problems we can't solve. All of it stays there, running in the background like apps on your phone. You may not be using them, but they're draining your battery all the same. You may not be paying attention to them, but they're there, weighing you down. But you don't need to escape to a mountain or go on a silent retreat to empty your mind. You can do it while working. Right now. Right here. Because clearing space isn't about running away. It's about letting go. It's about deciding what you need for this task and what you don't, and setting aside what doesn't belong, not forever, just for now. Try this before starting any task. Close your eyes for 30 seconds. That's it. Ask yourself, what thought am I holding that I don't need for this task? Maybe it's stress about tomorrow. Maybe it's anger about something from earlier today. Maybe it's anxiety about whether you'll get this right. Whatever it is, name it, and let it go like dropping a weight from your hand. You don't have to fix it, you don't have to solve it. Just set it aside for now because you don't need it here. Use the clean tray rule. Before beginning any focused work session, shut down everything that doesn't belong. One app, one window, one direction. Because every open tab is an exit, every notification is a temptation, every accessible distraction is an open invitation to derail. So shut the doors. Leave only the one that matters, and work from there. And when you feel your mind filling up again, when the weight starts creeping back in, when the clarity begins to blur, pause. Not to escape, not to open your phone, not to check out. Pause to come back to yourself. A pause is not a breakdown, it's a reset. It's a return to center. It's releasing what's built up so you can keep moving with clarity. Imagine a Stoic student in ancient Rome practicing calligraphy. If his mind filled with anger or worry, his hand would shake. The line would bend, the ink would smear. He wasn't training his hand. He was training his mind before touching the ink. Because he knew, if the mind isn't clear, the hand won't be either. We're the same. Our brush is the keyboard. And if your mind is filled with noise, your words will be too. And yes, concentration has limits. It's a finite resource. Every decision you make, every distraction you allow, every unneeded thought you carry drains that resource. That's why people who work all day and make no progress aren't lazy. They're overwhelmed. They're mentally saturated. They never emptied before they started. So if you want to really focus, if you want to work harder than anyone, it's not just about adding more effort. It's about removing what doesn't belong. It's about clearing out what clutters the space. Because high-quality work doesn't come from brute force. It comes from clarity. And clarity only shows up when there's space for it. Epictetus summed it up clearly. You can't learn, grow, or move forward if you're still holding on to old thoughts. If you're still carrying around open conversations. If you're still clinging to worries that can't be solved now. You have to let go. Not to forget, but to make room. Because mental space is where focus lives. And without space, there can be no focus. Treat your mind like a space you care for, not like a bucket where everything gets dumped, not like a storage unit where things pile up unchecked, but like a garden. You choose what to plant, what to water, what to let grow, and what to pull out because it no longer belongs. Because if you don't tend to that space, weeds take over. And when the weeds take over, nothing new can grow. So before you return to your task, empty. Close what you don't need. Ask yourself what thought you can let go of, what tab you can close, what worry you can leave aside for now. And when you do, when you really clear the space, you'll feel the weight lift. You'll feel your mind breathe. You'll feel focus return. Not because you added anything, but because you removed what was in the way. Because when your mind has space, everything flows. Ideas come, words appear. The work moves forward. Not because you're smarter, but because you're lighter, clearer, more present. And that is the only way to truly work. With space, with clarity, with a mind that doesn't overflow but breathes. 9th lesson. The edge of your mind is sharpened through use. Picture this. Japan, 1588. A young samurai named Miyamoto Musashi prepares for his first real duel. He doesn't wear expensive armor. He has no noble lineage. All he carries is a wooden sword and years of training repeated to the point of exhaustion. His master had once told him something he didn't understand until that moment. The blade doesn't get sharp by thinking about sharpening it. It gets sharp by using it. Every precise strike, every repeated movement, every hour of conscious practice built the edge. Not intention, not desire, action, sustained and consistent. Musashi won that duel, and the next 60. Not because he was the strongest, but because his mind was sharp, trained, precise. While other warriors depended on inspiration in the moment, Musashi relied on conscious repetition, on daily practice, on the constant use of his skill. That difference, accumulated over thousands of hours, is what turned him into a legend. Your mind is exactly the same. It's a tool of precision, a blade that only cuts when it's kept sharp. It doesn't grow stronger through inspiration, or by thinking about change, or by planning to improve. It gets sharper while you work, while you repeat, while you persist. Every task you finish, every distraction you reject, every sustained hour of focus sharpens the edge. And with each day you do that, you become more precise, more effective, more capable. Epictetus put it clearly, no great achievement comes without training. He wasn't talking about dramatic effort or heroic sacrifice. He was talking about conscious repetition, about returning to the practice day after day, even when you don't feel like it, even when no one is watching, even when progress is invisible. Excellence is an edge maintained daily, not in moments of glory, but in moments of routine. Here's the issue. Every distraction is rust. Every unnecessary comparison is rust. Every task you skip without finishing, rust. And rust doesn't show up all at once. It builds slowly. Until one day you go to cut and realize your blade doesn't work anymore. Not because you lack the ability, but because you stopped using it with precision. A mind that jumps from stimulus to stimulus becomes dull, clumsy, ineffective. Not because it lacks intelligence, but because it lost its edge. It got used to scattering. It trained itself in distraction instead of focus. And the brain, like any muscle, adapts to what it practices. If you practice jumping between things, you become an expert at that. But you lose the ability to go deep, to sustain, to finish. Now look at your day, right now. What are you doing? You're here, listening, working, making progress. That already sharpens something. But the edge only holds when you finish what you start, when you close loops, when you see things through, even when it's hard. Because every time you leave something half done, you weaken the blade. Every time you quit because you're not feeling it, you teach your brain that it's okay to give up. And if you repeat that enough, you end up with a mind that never finishes anything. Marcus Aurelius approached time like a craftsman works with wood, surface by surface, without hurry, without distraction. He knew that completing one thing well is worth more than doing 20 things halfway. That's where the edge is. That's the quiet power. Not in doing more, but in doing what you do well, in finishing, in closing it fully before moving on to the next. So define visible completion. Don't say, I'm going to write my new book. Say, I'm not done until I finish chapter 3. Or, I'll close the laptop after I revise this chapter. Concrete goals sharpen, vague ones dull, because when you define the end point, your brain knows what it's aiming for, and when it knows where it's going, it can endure. But if there's no clear finish, the mind wanders. It looks for exits. It disperses. And when the urge to switch tasks shows up, and it will, breathe once and stay 2 minutes longer before you move. That is the moment that defines your edge. Not the moments when energy is high or motivation is flowing. The moment you want to stop and choose not to. That's where real capacity is built. That's when the edge truly sharpens. Close the loop before you stop. Before ending a work session, leave a final note. One line that says, continue here, or next step, revise section 3. That protects the edge for tomorrow. Because when you return, you're not starting cold. You know exactly where to pick up. That small gesture removes friction from starting. It makes returning easier. And when returning is easy, consistency becomes natural. Think of an old blacksmith. He doesn't strike at random. He strikes with rhythm, with intention. Every impact builds. Every swing is calculated. Every movement has purpose. By the end of the day, the blade wasn't made in one hit. It was made in the sum of all of them, in conscious repetition, in sustained work. That's how you work, even if no one sees it, even if no one applauds it, even if no one gets it. Every task you complete, every hour of focused effort, every decision to keep going when you'd rather stop sharpens your mind. And over time, that sharp mind becomes your greatest advantage. Not because you're smarter than others, but because your tool is ready. Because while others are dulled by distraction, you are sharpened by practice. Musashi didn't become invincible in a single day. He became invincible in thousands of days where he chose to train, even when it rained. When he chose to repeat, even when he already knew the move. When he chose to sharpen his skill, even when no one was watching. And you are doing the same. Every time you focus on yourself, every time you concentrate and work with sustained discipline, you are sharpening. You are building a mind that cuts where others only scratch. You are someone who finishes what they start, not because it's easy, but because you know that's where the edge lives, and the edge is the only thing that matters when it's time to cut. 10th lesson. When the mind wants to run, the body stays. Have you ever been right on the edge of doing something important, and suddenly your mind starts looking for a way out? It's not that you can't do it. It's that something inside you begins negotiating. It tells you this isn't the right time, that tomorrow will be better, that this can wait, that no one will notice if you stop now. And it's not real exhaustion. It's something more subtle. It's discomfort. It's resistance. It's your brain looking for the easiest escape, because continuing means staying in the uncomfortable a little longer. It means holding the tension. And the mind hates discomfort. It prefers what's familiar, what's safe, what doesn't hurt. That quiet internal whisper, the one that sounds so reasonable, is what defines everything, because it doesn't show up when you're just starting. It shows up the moment you're about to make real progress, when the work is starting to matter, when resistance shows its true weight. And right there at that exact point is where most people give up. Marcus Aurelius had this thought carved into his mind. Don't run. Return to your task. Act as nature expects of you. He didn't say it with intensity or pride. It wasn't epic or heroic. It was simple. When mental fatigue shows up, don't stand up yet. Stay a moment longer. Breathe. Hold. And then decide. But decide not from the urgency of wanting to escape. Decide from the calm of having stayed. Picture it. You're at the gym, 40 minutes in. Your legs feel heavy. Your body wants to quit. But it's not true physical exhaustion. It's discomfort. It's mental resistance. It's your brain telling you you've done enough, that no one will know if you stop now, that you can finish tomorrow. Because staying in discomfort builds tension, and the mind seeks relief, distraction, any excuse to break away, anything but continuing. That's where most people break. They drop the weights, head to the locker room, tell themselves they've done enough for today, and in that moment, without even realizing it, they're training themselves to give up, teaching their brain that when discomfort shows up, they leave. And if you repeat that enough, you build a pattern, one where your mind knows it doesn't have to hold, because you always give in. But not you. You're training something that isn't visible from the outside, your ability to stay a little longer. Not much, not another hour, just a little more. One more set, 2 more minutes. Because that, just a little more, is where the real difference lives. Between the person who talks about getting in shape and the one who actually does. Between the one who plans to start and the one who already has. Between the one who dreams of results and the one who builds them. That little extra won't change you today. You won't see instant results. You won't feel some explosion inside you. But it changes you over time. It changes your fiber, your internal structure, your character. Because every time you stay when you want to go, you're depositing something into an account that only you can see. And with time, that account grows, and you become someone who simply doesn't quit. Not because you're a hero, because you trained staying. Angela Duckworth spent years studying what separates people who achieve extraordinary things from those who stay average. She called it grit, perseverance. But it's not just enduring. It's the ability to stay in discomfort without making it dramatic, to keep going when the novelty has worn off, to hold steady when there's no applause. And that isn't something you learn in a course. It's something you train in those 2 minutes when you want to stop, and you don't. When discomfort shows up, don't fight it. Just notice it. Watch how your mind tries to escape, how your body gets restless, how your eyes wander toward your phone or the window. Observe it without judgment. Then quietly say to yourself, I'll stay for 2 more minutes. Not 10, not 30, just 2. Those 2 minutes are manageable. Your brain can accept them. It doesn't feel like torture, it feels like a small conscious effort. And after those 2 minutes, pause. Take a deep breath. Feel your body. And then decide if you stop or keep going. Most of the time, you'll keep going. Because the brain already crossed the resistance threshold. You're already inside. And once you're in, continuing is easier than starting. That's the muscle that makes people unstoppable. The ones who don't look extraordinary from the outside. The muscle of staying when no one is watching. The muscle of holding steady without applause. The muscle of remaining even when the mind is screaming to quit. Because the truth is this: the mind will always scream. It will always want out. It will always crave comfort. That's its nature, but you don't have to obey it. You can hear it, notice it, and still stay. Epictetus would put it like this: don't tell yourself you can't, just say not yet. Because it's not that you can't stay longer, it's that your mind doesn't want to. And there's a huge difference between not being able and not wanting to. When you can't, you stop because your body fails. When you don't want to, you stop because you gave in to discomfort. And giving in to discomfort is a choice, one you can change. You're not here to prove anything to anyone. You're not competing with the world. You're here to prove to yourself that you can stay, that you can hold when others fold, that you can keep going when others give up, that you can focus and work harder than anyone. Not because you have some special gift, but because you trained yourself to stay. Because you've learned how to remain in discomfort without running. And every time you do, even if it's just 2 minutes, you're strengthening something deeper than focus. You're strengthening your character. Because character isn't built on easy days. It's built in the moments when you want to run and choose to stay. In the moments when your mind looks for an exit and you close the door. In the moments when giving up would be easy and you hold just a little longer. When your mind wants to run, you stay. Not to suffer, not to punish yourself, but to train, to build, to become someone who doesn't rely on motivation to move forward, because motivation comes and goes. But your ability to stay, that stays with you. And that's all you really need to go far. 2 more minutes. That's it. And in those 2 minutes, you become someone else. Not because something changes all at once, but because you chose to stay. And that choice, repeated day after day, is what builds everything else. Lesson 11. Do one thing. For real. How many things are you doing right now? No, seriously. How many? Because if the answer is more than one, then you're not doing any of them well. You're divided. And when you're divided, every part of you is working at half strength. Your body might be here, but your mind is somewhere else. And that's not real work. That's just drain. Marcus Aurelius put it in a simple phrase that cuts through the noise. Do every act of your life as if it were your last. That's not poetry, it's surgical precision. If today your most important task is just one, then for the next hour your entire life becomes that one thing. Not 5, not 3, 1. And when you actually manage that, when your attention and your action live in the same place, everything changes. Not because you work more hours, but because every hour counts twice as much. Picture this. You sit down, place your phone face down and out of reach, and before you touch the keyboard, you tell yourself silently, "For the next hour, I do only this. Nothing else. No checking email, no scrolling social media, no replying to messages. Just this." And when you do that, when you truly close all the doors except one, work flows. Not because you're smarter, because you're not split. The problem is, we live fragmented. Part of you is on the task. Another part is on your phone. Another is worrying about what's next. And when you're divided, nothing comes out well. Your brain is not designed for multitasking. It's designed for depth. But we force it into a dozen directions, and then wonder why we're exhausted and haven't made progress. So create a Stoic startup ritual. 3 simple steps to tell your brain, now we get serious. First, turn off all notifications. Not just silence, close them. Second, open only the tool you need. 1 window, 1 app, 1 direction. Third, write a short sentence of intent. Today I'll finish section 2 of the report. Or, today I'll finalize the data analysis. Something concrete you can point to at the end and say, that's done. And when you're done, use a shutdown ritual. Note the micro win in the next step. Not to brag, to protect momentum. Because when you come back tomorrow, you're not starting cold. You know exactly where to pick up. That tiny step removes starting friction. And when it's easier to start, consistency becomes natural. Epictetus made the point without fluff. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it in your work. No need to announce your focus. No need to share your plan, just do it. Quietly, without witnesses. Because real work speaks for itself. And if your mind wants to jump to something else, and it will, respond with one short question. What's in front of me? That question slices through distraction, because the answer is always tangible. This document, this line of code, this calculation, and when you focus on what's in front of you, the rest fades. Not because it doesn't exist, but because it doesn't matter right now. Cal Newport spent years studying deep work and found one key insight. The ability to focus without distraction is becoming increasingly rare. And in a world full of scattered minds, the one who can go deep holds a massive advantage. Not because they're smarter, but because they can solve deeper problems, build better things, and create what others can't. Because others never go deep enough. Can you stay fully focused for 30 minutes? Start there. Don't ask for hours, don't push for epic sessions. Just give yourself 30 undivided minutes on one task. No switching, no checking, no escaping. And when you do it, you'll see something shocking. You'll get more done in those 30 minutes than in 2 scattered hours. Seneca would talk about seizing the present without drama. Take a humble but sacred block of time. 30 minutes, 1 hour, whatever you can hold. And while you're in it, be fully in it. Shut out the world. Measure your effort by actual output. Words written, code pushed, problems solved. Not by hours logged. Hours are meaningless if your mind wasn't truly there. Make a 1 priority board. At the top, the one thing that matters today. Whatever else you do should lead you toward that. Below, parked tasks. Not forgotten, just postponed. Because if you try to do everything at once, you'll do nothing well. But if you focus your energy on one thing, that thing moves. And when it moves, everything else becomes easier. Before ending your session, write down tomorrow's first action. Not, work on the project. That's vague. Say, write the introduction or check data from section 3. Something so specific that tomorrow, you don't need to think. Just act. Because thinking at the start creates friction, and friction creates resistance, and resistance slows you down. Do it quietly. Don't count hours. Don't post about your focus. Let your results speak. Because when you become someone who does one thing for real, when you learn to focus and work with sustained discipline without splitting your energy, results are inevitable. Not because you're special, but because you're not wasting energy in 10 directions. You're channeling it into one. You're someone who doesn't negotiate with distractions. Not because you're perfect, but because you know that every distraction steals a piece of you, and you can't afford that. Not because you're selfish, but because you understand that your attention is your most valuable resource, and if you don't protect it, no one will. Your discipline is your strength. Everything else is noise. And when you learn to shut out that noise, when you learn to do one thing for real, everything changes. Not tomorrow, not in a month, today, in this hour, in these 30 minutes. Because change doesn't come when you finish, it comes when you start. And you can only truly start when you stop doing 100 things and finally focus on one. Lesson 12. Forge focus before entering the fire. The blacksmith doesn't strike cold metal. He heats it until it responds. And you can't expect to perform at your best if you enter your work cold. You need to warm up your mind first, prepare it, temper it. Because if you walk into chaos unprepared, chaos owns you. But if you enter it with clarity, you own the chaos. Epictetus reminded his students constantly, it's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about things. In practical terms, before you check email, before you look at messages, before you let the noise of the world in, warm up your mind. Prepare it for what's coming. Because if you don't, the first thing you see will set the tone for your entire day. And most of the time, that first thing is urgent but not important. Picture this, headphones on. 2 minutes of calm nasal breathing, eyes open, staring at a fixed point on your desk. It's not mystical meditation, it's physiological prep. You're lowering cortisol, activating the parasympathetic nervous system, telling your body it can shift into focus mode instead of survival mode. Then do a 3-step micro-visualization. First, see the task done. Not your whole day, just the first task. Visualize it finished. Second, feel the physical relief that comes from completion. Third, choose the first physical action, not work on the report. Open the document, write the title. Something so small there's zero resistance. When your brain sees the path in advance, starting becomes easy. Write down one guiding question for the next hour. Place it where you can see it. What depends on me right now? That question is gold. It cuts through everything you can't control. It cuts the worry about what's next. It cuts the guilt over what you didn't do yesterday. It brings you back to the only place you have power, now. When anxiety comes, and it will, don't argue with it. Don't try to convince yourself you shouldn't feel it. Just redirect it to the smallest measurable action. You're anxious about a big project? Fine. What's the smallest thing you can do right now to move it forward? Write one sentence, check one number, send one email. Something so small your brain can't resist. And when you do it, the anxiety drops, because anxiety lives in inaction. In action, it dissolves. You already know this. The issue isn't lack of motivation, it's lack of clarity. When you don't know what to do, you freeze. But when you do know what to do, especially if it's small, you move. Movement builds momentum. Momentum builds more movement. And suddenly you're in the flow, working, making progress. Imagine stepping into your workday like crossing the threshold of a Roman military camp. You don't rush, you don't improvise. You check your gear, you adjust your shield, you advance. Your pre-focus takes just 5 minutes, but it changes the shape of your day. You review your dominant goal, you define the first concrete action, and you commit to ignoring everything that doesn't serve it. When interruptions arrive, and they will, apply the Stoic control test. Is this under my control? If yes, act. If not, set it aside without guilt. Guilt is just another way to leak energy, another way to split your focus, another way to leave the present. And when you're not in the present, you can't work well. You can't truly focus. You can't move forward. At the end of the first hour, log evidence, not feelings. 1 page written, 1 block of code finished, 1 report sent. Not, I felt productive. That means nothing. What means something is what you did. What you can point to and say, this exists because I made it exist. Don't wait for motivation to step into the fire. Forge your focus first. Heat your mind. Set the ground. Choose the action. Then go in. Because when you're prepared, the fire doesn't burn you. You use it. You direct it. You control it. And at the end of the day, you're not exhausted from chaos. You're tired from conscious effort. And that kind of tired is different. That kind of tired helps you sleep well. You are someone who enters the day tempered, not reactive. You don't wake up and react to whatever hits you first. You wake up and decide how you'll move. You decide where your energy goes. You decide what matters and what doesn't. And that decision, made before the noise starts, is what protects you. It's what keeps you focused. It's what allows you to concentrate and work harder than anyone else, without burning out. Because hard work isn't suffering, it's preparation. It's heating the metal before you strike. It's tempering the mind before you enter the fire. And when you do that, when you enter with intention, work stops being a struggle. It becomes execution. And execution, when well prepared, is unstoppable. Lesson 13. Surround yourself with people who elevate you, not people who make you justify yourself. Imagine this. You've been working late nights to save for something important. 3 days straight of deep focus, steady progress, real effort. Then a friend calls asking you to go out for drinks. You say you can't, you're in the middle of something. And he replies, "Working again? Don't overdo it. You need to relax." Life's more than just work. The worst part? Sometimes it comes from people who genuinely care about you. They don't mean harm. But your discipline reflects back to them what they're avoiding in themselves. Instead of being inspired, they try to pull you back, because if you stop, they don't have to feel guilty about not moving forward. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca warned that your environment is so powerful, you start adopting the values and standards of the people around you, without even noticing. This isn't about elitism. It's about mental hygiene. It's about protecting your direction, about not letting the voices of people who aren't building anything convince you that you shouldn't build either. This is something practical. You can observe it today. How do you feel after spending time with certain people? Do you feel more focused, more disciplined, more grounded? Or do you feel more scattered, more cynical, more reactive? People don't just influence you with words. They influence you with their energy, their worldview, what they consider normal. Spend time with people who normalize complaining, and you'll start complaining. Spend time with people who procrastinate, and you'll start procrastinating. Spend time with people who accept mediocrity, and soon you'll start settling. Not because you're weak, because you're human. Humans mirror. It's biology, it's survival, it's social adaptation. But it's also a trap if you don't manage it. So start adjusting the subtle. You don't need to cut ties with anyone dramatically. No drama, no declarations. Just be more precise about where your emotional energy goes. Answer fewer conversations that don't serve you. Reduce your time in environments where complaining is the norm. Don't hate them. Don't judge them. Just keep your distance, because your energy is limited and you can't afford to pour it into soil where nothing grows. Now find at least one person, just one, who you can talk to about your goals. Not to show off, to stay grounded. There's a massive difference between someone who says, "That's great," and someone who asks, "Did you get it done?" One makes you feel good, the other makes you move. And if you want to focus on yourself and work with sustained discipline, you need more of the second kind. Jim Rohn said, "You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." It stings, but it's true. Look at your inner circle. Do they push you upward or pull you down? Do they remind you of your potential or your past? Do they challenge you or let you off the hook? Because if all your friends normalize staying stuck, you will too. Not because you want to, but because it's what you see every day. Even Marcus Aurelius said you should share your table with those who live with resolve. Not the loudest, not the most charming, not the ones who flatter you, the ones who walk the path without talking much about it, the ones who don't question your discipline. They reflect it. They don't say, "Take a break," they say, "Let's go." And this isn't just about friends, it's about what you consume. Every account you follow is a voice in your head. Every podcast you listen to is a perspective you adopt. Every book you read is a mindset you absorb. And if everything you consume leads you toward comfort, cynicism, or complaint, it doesn't matter how hard you work. That influence will pull you back. Watch for this over the next week. Notice how you feel after you speak to someone, not during, after. You might feel good during the chat, but after you'll know. Did you leave with more clarity or more confusion? More energy or more weight? More direction or more doubt? That feeling tells you if someone is lifting you up or draining you. You're not looking for praise. You're looking for mutual respect among builders. People who understand the silence of deep work. People who don't need an explanation when you say, "I'm focused." People who, when you disappear for a while, don't say, "You've been gone." They say, "How's the project coming?" And when you find someone like that, even just one, protect that connection. Because in a world full of distractions and mediocrity, someone who helps you rise is gold. Don't take them for granted. Don't let them go. Because that person, without even knowing it, is holding you up on days when you couldn't do it alone. They remind you who you are when the world tries to convince you to be less. Your environment isn't an accident. It's a choice. And if you don't choose it, the world will choose for you. And the world always picks easy, comfortable, mediocre, because that demands nothing. But you're not here for easy. You're here to build something that lasts. And for that, you need an environment that holds you up, not holds you back. Lesson 14. Stop carrying what you no longer are. Picture a backpack you wear every day. At first it's light, but over time it weighs you down. That backpack is filled with who you were 2 years ago. Old mistakes, outdated habits, harsh comments you let stick, and you're still carrying it around like it defines you, as if who you were is the only person you can be. But it's not. Who you were is not who you are, unless you keep acting the same, unless you keep repeating the same stories, unless you keep using your past as an excuse not to move. Because the past only has power if you give it power. If you decide that what you did years ago still defines you today, that a failure, a fall, a mistake is your identity. But it isn't, unless you choose to make it so. The Stoics were masters at cutting ties with outdated identities. Epictetus taught that who you were does not define who you are now, unless you choose to act the same. You don't need months of self-forgiveness. You don't need years of therapy to let go. What you need is the decision to stop identifying with a version of yourself that no longer serves you. To decide, that was before. Now you act differently. It sounds simple, but it's brutal, because your whole life, people told you, that's just who you are. You've always been like that. It's your personality. And the worst part is, you started saying it too. Every time you say, "That's just how I am," you're picking up that backpack again. You're choosing to stay in the old version. You're choosing not to change. Here's a truth nobody talks about. Identity isn't fixed. You weren't born a procrastinator. You weren't born distracted. You weren't born insecure. You learned to be those things. And what's learned can be unlearned. What was built can be rebuilt, but only if you stop clinging to the story of who you were. Next time you catch yourself thinking, "It's just how I am," pause. Ask yourself, am I really still like that? Or am I just acting the same out of habit? Because most of the time it's not that you are that way, it's just how you act. And there's a massive difference. Being is fixed, acting is a choice. And choices can change. Change the language. Don't say, "I'm a procrastinator." Say, "I used to procrastinate, now I finish what I start." Don't say, "I'm distracted." Say, "I used to get distracted, now I focus." It seems small, just words, but words shape identity. Identity shapes action, and action shapes life. Picture this. You're about to quit a task halfway through, telling yourself, "I always struggle to finish." That thought shows up automatically. It's been rehearsed for years. But in that moment, shift the sentence. Don't wait to feel different. Don't wait to believe it. Just act differently, finish the task. Even if it's hard, even if it hurts, even if your mind screams to stop, finish. Because action rewrites identity, not the other way around. Carol Dweck spent decades studying this. She called it growth mindset. And she found something simple but powerful. People who believe they can change, do. Not because they're gifted, but because they stop clinging to old identities. They allow themselves to be different, to fail without saying, "See, I'll never change." Instead, they say, "I'm still learning." Make a phrase your mental line in the sand, something like, "That no longer describes me." It's not a motivational mantra. It's not spiritual fluff, it's a mental boundary. It tells your brain, that version of me doesn't live here anymore. When old thoughts show up, repeat it. That no longer describes me. Then act accordingly. Marcus Aurelius had a powerful principle. With every action, decide who you're becoming. Not who you were, not who people say you are, who you choose to be right now. Because every action is a vote for the future version of you. And if you cast enough votes, eventually that version wins. Not because you flipped a switch, because you stopped voting for the old one. And here's the liberating part. You don't have to carry your past. You don't have to define yourself by old failures. You don't have to be forever labeled by the person who quit, who messed up, who didn't make it. That was then. Now, you're someone else. Someone building. Someone learning. Someone choosing to stay where they once ran. Someone choosing to finish what they used to leave unfinished. Your past has no seat at today's table. Don't invite it. Don't defend it. Don't use it as a shield. Because every time you say, "This is just how I've always been," you're choosing to stay stuck. And you're not here to stay stuck, you're here to move forward, to focus on yourself, to work with sustained discipline toward a better version of you. Drop the backpack, you don't need it. What you need is the decision to act differently today. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Today, now. Because the new identity doesn't start when you believe you're different. It starts when you act different. And if you act different often enough, one day you'll look up and realize you're not who you were. You're who you chose to be. Now ask yourself, what part of your past are you still carrying that no longer serves you? Think about it. And if you want, write it down. Or simply comment, "That no longer defines me." That small act of writing it is more powerful than you think. It marks a boundary. It tells your mind, that old version doesn't belong here anymore. But letting go of who you were is only part of the process. Because one thing is to stop being who you were, and another, much deeper thing, is choosing who you're going to be now. And that choice isn't made in big moments. Not when everyone's watching. It's made in a place most people never notice. A quiet place, where there's no audience, no applause. A place where doing the easy thing would go unnoticed. Want to know where the real change happens? I'll tell you now. Lesson 15. Choose who you are in the small moments. Let me ask you an uncomfortable question. Who are you when no one is watching? Not the version you show online. Not the one your friends think they know. The real one. The one only you live with. Are you the kind of person who returns the shopping cart to its place even if it's raining? Or the one who leaves it there because someone else will handle it? Do you cross the street on red because no cars are coming? Or do you wait, even if no one's around? Do you speak the truth when it's inconvenient? Or do you tweak the story to make it easier? Those small decisions, those seemingly irrelevant ones, are what define you. Not your goals, not your intentions, your actions in the moments where no one is watching, because that's exactly where your real character is forged. Marcus Aurelius wrote for himself, not for others. He wrote during military campaigns, exhausted, far from comfort, with no guarantee anyone would ever read his words. Still, he wrote this simple but powerful truth. Real greatness is built through small, repeated actions. He knew that transformation doesn't happen when the opportunity comes. It happens in the silence. In the moments you stay steady even when no one is around. When you choose to do the right thing even when there's no praise. When you follow through with your own promises, even when no one else is keeping track. That's what most people miss. They wait for the big moment, the perfect alignment, the inspiration. But that moment doesn't come, or if it does, it's brief. And if that's the only time you act, you'll never build anything real. Because what lasts is made in the small, ordinary, invisible decisions. Let me tell you a real story. A friend of mine, Epictetus, was preparing for one of the toughest competitive exams. She had been studying for months. No social life, no distractions, just focus. 2 weeks before the exam, someone messaged her with leaked questions. Not all of them, but enough to tilt the scale. No one would know. It was just between them. She stared at the message for hours. No one was watching her. No one would have judged her. She could have said yes and no one would find out. That was one of those small moments. No camera, no applause, just her and a choice. In the end, she deleted the message. Not because she was perfect, not because she didn't want to succeed, but because she understood something deeper. Even if she passed, she would know it wasn't hers. Her win would feel hollow. Her result would be tainted. She failed that year, she didn't pass. But she went back the following year and passed, clean. When she held that passing notice in her hand, she didn't need to hide from herself. She didn't carry guilt. She knew it was hers, entirely, because she had won it in those moments no one else saw. That's where everything is built, not in the visible, impressive days, but in the invisible, quiet ones. When you give back the extra change even if no one noticed. When you admit your mistake even though it could go unnoticed. When you train even though no one's checking. When you study even though no one asked. When you follow through just because you said you would. Each small decision is a vote for the person you are becoming. When you get up even without motivation, that's a vote. When you finish the task even though you're tired, that's another. When you pull yourself back into focus, that's one more. If you collect enough of those, if you stack enough votes in the right direction, one day you wake up and you're no longer who you were. You've become who you chose to be, quietly, without permission, without an audience, just by deciding again and again. Choose one small act each day that represents who you want to be. Just one. It could be calling someone back like you promised, doing an extra set of push-ups even though no one is counting, not lying in that one moment of pressure, not cheating when you could, or simply keeping your word on something that no one else remembers you said. One act, but every single day. Because that repeated act, that small thing, is how identity is built. Don't wait to feel different before you do it. That's the trap. Waiting to feel ready. Waiting to feel like you've changed. Waiting for certainty. But action is what creates identity, not the other way around. Act first. And if the motivation comes, great. If not, you still moved. And that's what matters. Epictetus taught it simply. Freedom comes from choosing your actions, not your emotions. You don't need to feel strong to act strong. You can feel tired and still be disciplined. You can have doubts and still take the next step. You don't need clarity to start building. That's the part most people don't get. They think they need to feel before they can act. But it works in reverse. Act first, feel later, maybe. Either way, progress happens. Strength isn't in dramatic moments. It's in steady ones, quiet ones, repeated ones. Anyone can be heroic for a day. Anyone can do the right thing when people are watching. But choosing the right path when no one will ever know? That's something else. That's character. And character doesn't come from the epic moments, it comes from the daily ones, the ordinary ones, the ones that go unnoticed. And here's what's powerful. When you train yourself to choose well in the small things, it becomes automatic. You don't have to overthink it, you just do it. You become someone who does what's right, not because it's easy, but because it's who you are. That version of you, the one no one else sees, is the only one that matters. It's the one that carries through everything else. Every one of those unseen choices is forming you, not the big days when people clap, not the day your project goes live, not the day your name's called. The real work happens in the boring moments, the tiny decisions, the quiet victories. And if you get those right, the rest follows. Every time you reject the shortcut, even when no one would know. Every time you keep your word, even when it would be easier to let it slide. Every time you do what's right, even when it's harder. you're building something unshakable. A version of yourself that doesn't depend on praise, that doesn't fold under pressure, that walks straight even when no one's looking. So, go back to your work. You don't need to do it perfectly. Just choose yourself again. Breathe, and keep going a little further. Not because anyone is measuring, not because you need to prove anything, but because this moment, this small, quiet, ordinary moment, is the one shaping you. You're someone who chooses themselves daily, especially in the small moments. You don't make noise. You don't need approval. You don't chase applause. You just act. In each small choice, in each moment, no one sees but you. And that choice, repeated, is what sets you apart. Because most people take the shortcut when they can. You walk the long path, even when no one's watching. Most do what's right when it's visible. You do what's right, always. Most build an image, you build character. And when the results come, and people ask how you did it, you'll know the truth. It wasn't one big leap. It was 1,000 small steps. Quiet, steady, unseen. But in each one, you chose yourself. Without shortcuts, without cheats, without exceptions. So next time you're offered a shortcut, the next time you could get away with it, the next time no one's watching, remember this: that small moment is where everything is defined. That's where you become who you really are. Not in the speeches, not in the promises, in the decisions you make when no one's watching. Those are the ones that matter. Those are the ones that build you. And in the end, those are the ones that make you unstoppable. If this message hit home, drop a comment and write, "I choose myself every time." Let it be your reminder, your declaration, your next small step.